Hello everyone, welcome to Trackcast. I'm your host once again, Rich Hanson, and I'm here today to talk to you about cores and everything to do with cores. RG, differential, mass bias, symmetric, asymmetric, all those crazy terms that you hear and exactly what that's going to mean to you and how you should apply it to the next bowling ball you choose. All right, so here we are in the drill room at the training center, and one of the most common questions we get from consumers, and I know a lot of pro shop operators get when a consumer walks in, is what type of bowling ball should I get? And before we can answer that question for you, there's a lot of information we need to know. We need to know how you throw the bowling ball, what do you have currently in your arsenal, and where are you trying to get the ball to fit. But today I want to talk about cores, and hopefully this is some information that you can use to help you gain knowledge and also help you select a better bowling ball for you. Okay, so now that you've decided you want a brand new bowling ball, and you're trying to decide what type of ball that is, one thing you need to consider is what type of core you're going to choose. And there's two types you can choose from. There's symmetrical and there's asymmetrical. A symmetrical core is going to be a smoother transition through the lane and give you more predictability down lane. The opposite is an asymmetrical core. That's a core where when it encounters friction and it's transitioning through the lane, you're going to see a more sudden and sharp change of direction. Now, depending on how you throw the bowling ball, it'll help you decide what kind of core do you want. Typically, a bowler with a higher rev rate is going to want that smoother, symmetrical shape on the lanes, and they're going to want a symmetrical ball. The opposite is true for a bowler with a lower rev rate. You're usually needing help to get the ball to change direction, so that asymmetrical core design is going to be perfect for you. Okay, so now you've decided what type of core design you want to get, whether it be a symmetrical or asymmetrical. The next thing we need to look at is the core properties. We have to focus on RG, which is radius of gyration. We have to focus on differential. Then we need to focus on if there's a mass bias. So an asymmetrical ball will have a mass bias strength, a symmetrical will not. Talking about RG, this is going to help dictate how fast the ball wants to rev up. The lower limit you set by USBC is 2.46. Now there's a huge range of numbers there and it's kind of confusing, but focus on 246 being the low end, and anywhere between there and 250 is something we consider on the low end of RG. The lower that number, the faster the ball wants to rev up when it comes off your hand, and the more revolutions you can create of the bowling ball, the more friction the ball will create with the lane, and also create more hook. Now looking at a higher RG ball. Higher RG would be somewhere in the 255 to 260 range. That's a core that's going to have more mass towards the cover stock and less towards the center. What that core is going to want to do is going to want to tumble more as it goes down the lane. The more mass away from the center of the core, the harder it is to get the rev up. So that means the ball is going to get down the lane easier and create less friction. The higher RG ball is perfect for someone that needs help getting the ball down the lane, whether you have slow ball speed, whether you have a very high rev rate, or whether the lanes are drier. The opposite for the lower RG core. That's perfect for heavy oil lanes, someone that's kind of rev challenged or needs help revving up the ball, or when you want to create a lot of hook. Okay, so now the third step. We've picked which core type we want, whether it's symmetrical or asymmetrical. We've picked whether we want a medium, low, or high RG bowling ball. Now we need to match up what kind of differential we want to get. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, we'll pick the differential to match the RG as well. So say we're wanting a ball for heavy oil lanes. Okay, we went and we picked a low RG core. Now we also want to get a higher differential to create more track flare. So the higher the differential, the more the potential for track flare. So whether you say you get something in the 0.54 range, that's going to equal to about 5 to 6 inches of flare potential. So the more flare potential, the more fresh surface contact with the lane, and the more fresh surface contact equals friction, and the more friction equals more hook. The opposite, so say we want something for drier lanes, we've picked a higher RG ball. Well, we want higher RG because the ball's going to get down the lane, but we also want a lower differential to keep down the hook potential. So we would want to choose something maybe 0.20, 0.30 range. That's going to equal about 2 to 3 inches of flare potential. So now we have less flare potential, less surface contact with the lane, therefore less friction and less overall hook. All right, so we've picked which core type we want, we've picked which RG we want, we've picked what differential we want. Now we need to determine what type of, how asymmetric we want that core to be. There's a mass bias strength in an asymmetric ball. If we picked a symmetrical core, we don't have to worry about that. But if we picked an asymmetric core, something like in a paradox, we need to decide how much of the mass bias strength do we want. So there's several cores in our brand that have different mass bias strengths. The Paradox is on the higher end. It's got a 16 intermediate differential or a mass bias. What that means is the higher that number, when it encounters friction, the faster that core wants to turn over, okay? The lower the number, the smoother it's going to be. So we can go from symmetrical, which is very smooth. We can choose a mass bias strength, say in the 10 range, and it's going to give us a little bit more kick than the symmetrical ball. But if we want the absolute most kick or the most digging in the lane, we want to get the highest asymmetry we can get, and that'll be in the 020 to 025 6 range, okay? So now take all those things together to help you choose what type of core you want to get in your bowling ball. Do you want a symmetrical or asymmetrical? You really need to think about what are you bowling on. You bowling on heavy oil, no oil, you throw the ball slow, throw the ball fast. Smooth balls or symmetrical. Faster change of direction is asymmetrical. Choose what RG you want to get. You want it to rev up fast? Choose a low RG core. You want it to rev up slower and lope more and get down the lane? Choose a high RG core. Differential, do you want it to hook a whole lot? Get the most differential you can get in that 060 range. If you want something to hook less, get that lower differential. Then when you tie it all together with that asymmetric core, look at that mass bias strength. How fast do you want to get that core to change direction? Choose a higher mass bias. If you want it to be sharper than a symmetrical ball, but not crazy sharp, choosing that 010 range for mass bias strength. So now we've chosen our cores. We really need to look on further, choose what type of cover stock and finish. Stay tuned to a future episode where we'll dive more into it and help you pick whether you want a solid, a pearl, or hybrid, whether you want a polished finish, a dull finish, or what type of finish in the dull state you want. Now that was a lot of information to take in a short period of time. A lot of RGs, core numbers, differentials, all that crazy stuff trying to apply it to a bowling ball. And it's a lot to watch and understand at one time. So not only can you watch this on Facebook, but don't forget to go to our YouTube page where you can watch this video again and again if you want. And also a whole spectrum of videos talking about bowling balls and the industry and different things on it. So make sure you also follow our YouTube page and follow us there so you can stay up with the latest information every week.